Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Do you hear me? It's okay? It's fine. After lunch, I hope I can have a lively session with yourself. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I took over this job last October from Jose Lopez, whom you might have seen 5 years ago. 2011 was the last time operations presented in this forum. So let me start a bit about myself, 2 minutes, because I'm kind of the new kid on the block at the executive board. And this year is a bit special for me because it's the 150th anniversary for Nestle, and it's my 25 years in the company. So not quite a veteran like Patrice and others yesterday, but a bit older than others as well. I'm half Swiss, half Lebanese, born in Cairo. Raised a lot of interest yesterday when people saw my name at the table. They wanted to know exactly where I come from. I had to repeat the story 3 times, unfortunately. And I started my career in Nestle here in this building. I'm an engineer and a PhD in thermodynamics. And when I started, one of my first jobs was to establish the environmental footprint of our manufacturing worldwide throughout the sites. And then I moved, of course, so you can see the flags of the various countries I have operated in. I have been in factories, I have been heading operations in markets, and my last job before taking over this one is our CEO for the business of Nestle in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And of course, naturally, as it was close to my heart, the first thing I did when I came back to this job in October last year was to check where is it, what's the state of the nation, what is our manufacturing footprint today, having kind of left the job in the center for 25 years. And you can see the numbers there. In 1991, when I started, I had to deal with 438 sites from an environmental standpoint at that time. Today, end of 2015, we have 436 sites. And we have opened, bought, sold, but also closed, for example, closure alone, 298 sites. Whilst, of course, during those 25 years, our sales have doubled and our production volumes have actually tripled. And that, for me, was a nice reflection because actually it shows our ability to still be nimble and to be somehow agile, to adapt, of course, to ever-evolving circumstances out there. Maybe we're not part of those who stand up and shout those types of things on the public place. But for me, it was a sign that we have been doing kind of our job over many, many years, day in and day out. And of course, that's part of our DNA because we come from a continuous improvement mindset. We called it operational excellence. Over the last many years, it started in 1997 when we introduced the first initiative, and then it has evolved towards something that you are more familiar with, which we call Nestle Continuous Excellence. So it's part really of our DNA to kind of have those ongoing savings to be able to support the business growth. What is NCE about? It started in operations, and as you can see today, these are impressive numbers of people on the shop floor and beyond, but still in operations, that are involved in problem solving. And these are simple things to more complex Six Sigma, DMAC, white belts, green belts, black belts. We have today 30,000 people in operations involved in those methodologies. And also that generates a lot of initiatives. And of course, that helps have projects for savings. And today, as we speak, that's a snapshot at the end of 2015. We had 27,800 continuous improvement projects and initiatives. But for me, NCE in operations is more about the shop floor. It's about the people who are working close to the lines. And allow me for a couple of minutes to show you these most important people, what the shop floor does and what the shop floor thinks about that.
أول ما بدأت تي بي إم على المكنة كان عندي بعض المشاكل كتير وكان عندي مجهود ذهني كتير، كان عندي مجهود كتير. طبعا كان عندي مجهود في الورق أوراق المكنة وكان عندي مشاكل في الأعطال والتوقفات القصيرة. بعد ما بدأنا رفعنا كورد على المكنة، رفعنا كور كتير على المكنة. كوردي لما اترفعت على المكنة أظهرت كل المشاكل اللي عندنا والعيوب اللي عندنا. بدأنا بحلها لما المشاكل دي كلها اتحلت بدأت كفاءة المكنة تعلى وأداء الناس أنا وزمايلي يعلى على المكنة. بدأ إنها يبقى عندنا وقت كافي على المكنة إن إحنا نقدر نطور ونحسن على المكنة.
知道简单的机器操作，现在通过深度清洁、挂牌、摘牌、OPL 和机械知识方面的培训学习，对故障的分析能力有了很大提高，并且能够解决一些小的故障。相信随着时间的推移，我们将对机器有更深入的认识，也能更快地发现和解决更高难度的问题。兄弟姐妹们一起努力，我们会做得更好，加油！
在解决小灵灯和异常现象的过程中，我们遇到很多的挑战，同时我们的维护技能也在不断提高。不久将来，自主维护零停顿。
We have about 110 sites today that are on TPM. I'll come back to that in a few moments in the presentation. And of course, those are reference factories as well. We are proud to send people from throughout the Nestle world to those reference factories for them to learn. But if you ask me what NCE is about, well, for me, it's about going to zero. In operations, we believe in zero. When we have developed that operations diamond, all the facets of the diamond, it's about going to zero. Some other companies have other names for those types of initiatives, those types of budgeting methods. Well, we call that NCE within Nestle. It's a mindset. Let me get you through every one of those facets or every one of those sides of the operations diamond. We will start with safety. What have we done over the last 8 years since NCE started? As you can see, we have reduced the number of recordable injury. We define that as the number of incidents per million hours worked. And this year, 2016, the target is 2.3, and we are confident we'll get there. This is a huge improvement compared to what we had in the past. Of course, we're not perfect. Of course, this is a journey. This is not an end by itself. This is a roadmap which continues for safety, but also for all the other elements you will see in a minute. If we talk about quality, the perception today from the consumer, maybe your perception in the room might be that our quality is not under control because we hear more things. Why? Because simply we have digital, we have social platforms, we have people taking a picture of something that they don't like, putting it on Facebook or sending it or tweeting, and then very quickly you have hundreds of thousands of people commenting on that. But the reality is that when it comes to quality incidents, we have managed to reduce, this is an index on 100, by 65% our quality incidents since 2008, whilst of course our production volumes during the same period has increased by 27%. If you look at eliminating waste from our value chain, we have OPEX. And here I have chosen only to put you not the total operation excellence savings, only the cost reduction savings, which are the net cost reduction. So this is without the so-called cost avoidance piece. And as you can see, we were around 800 million Swiss francs 8 years ago. And today we generate around 1.5, 1.6 billion Swiss francs net savings year on year. That's also about eliminating waste, and we have commitments, which you will see in a minute on all the aspects of sustainability as well. If you look at delivering the right product at the right time, we talk about case fill rate, and this is vis-a-vis the customer, our customers. This is the number of cases that we deliver in line, in full, on time. And these are real numbers, so we started at 96.5% case fill rate, and we have today on average as a group 98.4% case fill rate. And let alone in the month of April, which is very fresh, just to give you an idea, we have 10 top markets which have achieved 99.5% case fill rate. And we have 126 businesses in Nestle that have achieved 0 case failures also in the month of April. That's just to tell you that this is not stopping there. Although the numbers are 99 plus, we're tracking every single case we are missing, and that's again a journey. Also, we look at external benchmarks. How do the people outside rate us? And recently this week, the Gartner has published the ranking for our supply chain. Very happy to have improved. If you look at our ranking back in 2010, we were number 33. Not something that we should or we can be proud of. If you look at the ranking in 2015, end of 2015, we have moved from the 33rd position to the 10th position. So finally, we're amongst the top 10. Are we the best? No. Is there room for improvement? Of course, yes. But what Gartner also has assessed is that we are amongst the FMCG companies, because that ranking is total companies, it's not only FMCG. But Gartner has assessed that amongst the FMCG companies, we are the most improved company over that period of time. So you could think that we deliver to the customer. You could think, after what you have seen yesterday around innovation, that actually we are mushrooming our SKUs. That would be the natural tendency to conclude that. But actually that's not right, because also on SKUs, we have driven those downwards, nearly 20% reduction. This is an index of 100 over the last 3-4 years. And just to give you an idea, between late last year, I know that because I just took my new job, as I told you, in October. Between late last year and early this year, we have reduced by further 4,000 SKUs. So this gives you a bit an absolute number, what we have done. And we are looking at, of course, sales threshold and everything to drive the scale of SKUs, which is adding complexity without necessarily bringing sales, actually, and growth to the company. So we are very conscious of that as well. On environment, which is the last piece of this diamond, you can see impressive results. It's all indexed 100. This goes back to 2005. Why? Because on sustainability, all the external world judges decade after decade, because they compare us also to other companies. So we have kept that 10 years cycle. And you can see a reduction in wastewater, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, reduction in energy, reduction in water consumption. And while these are per ton of product, but of course this is whilst production has increased by 42% over the last 10 years. And you can see, except for energy, which is flat, a bit up, all the others in absolute numbers have also reduced in spite of this 42 massive increase in production volumes. We have also made commitments for the future. So by 2020, we'll further reduce water and energy by respectively 40% and 35%. We have also made commitments, public commitments, as you know, to go to zero waste, solid waste to landfill by 2020. And actually a lot of our sites are already there. We link all those commitments to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. We have, as we speak, 39 of those commitments linked to the SDGs, and we then engineer this backwards to be able to put in place a list of activities that will allow us to achieve that. So our creating shared value efforts are also recognized, and here I'd rather talk about what others talk about us or what others tell us. We have had the #1 position from the Carbon Disclosure Project organization. We were #2 in the nutrition index, #2 Oxfam in the ranking behind the brands. We are FTSE4Good certified, as you know, for quite a number of years now, and we are #1 on environmental dimension, on the environmental dimension of the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. The spider will show you where we are compared to the best in class, as seen by the externals, and also will show you where we are compared to the inner web, which is the industry average. Of course, we are not benchmarking ourselves with the industry average. We are benchmarking ourselves with the best. And that is not something that happens overnight. So that is something that is the fruit of a lot of years, at least 10 years, if not more, of really, very much hard work to be able to get there. A lot of what you saw, we talk about operations, but actually a lot of what you saw cannot happen only in operations. If the businesses are not behind that, if the businesses are not part of that zero mindset, then this is not going to happen. So indeed, recently, about a couple of years back, NCE has been, with the launch of Nestle Business Excellence, and my colleague Chris will talk about this a bit more in a minute, we have, of course, spread NCE beyond operations, and we have implemented NCE throughout the company. And yesterday you had some numbers, I think, from Laurent Frex in Zone Americas. He mentioned about at least 100 businesses, full value streams that have embraced NCE. And he mentioned also goal alignment, which is aligning the goals of the organization, cascading objectives, and escalating issues. He mentioned that that is now implemented throughout his zone. But let me give you a few testimonials of what this is outside operations and why people do it outside operations.
We decided to start NCE in the nutrition business unit in ZAR, really to find a competitive advantage. The marketplace started to become more and more intense, and although we lead in all three segments in which we play, we realized we needed to realign, to refocus, to change some processes to really get that competitive advantage and to keep it.
I think NCE helps a lot in terms of making sure we focus on the right priorities and making sure that we follow the right KPIs. It helps us have a transparency and how are we doing and what can we do in order to improve or correct when we are not achieving the KPIs that we have selected beforehand.
The business which I was handling was actually going through a phenomenal phase. We were selling like anything, all the KPIs were in the right direction, and frankly there was no need to do it. But I realized that as the business was expanding, we needed sustainability in the business. And that sustainability, I was not able to find the right kind of tools for that. And I did not know anything about NC. So between that period, I had the opportunity to visit one of the markets, which was already on the lean journey. And that was the instant click, because I knew that if we had alignment, if we had an aligned value chain, we will be able to get through all the difficulties which will come. And I knew with the competition coming in, there will be a lot of difficulties.
So our Nestle Continuous Excellence and our Creating Shared Values have provided, and I guess are still providing, this foundation, this long-term stability for the company. Now the question is, are we happy with what we have done? Of course we are. Otherwise we wouldn't have done it, or we'd have changed something. Are we satisfied? No, we are not. And the reason we are not satisfied is that we believe this is not enough. We believe that the world out there has changed drastically at a fast speed, and we need also in operations, and I'm talking about operations now, we need to do something more. We need to accelerate further. And hence, this image that I want to share with you, NCE and CSV are the foundations of what we do. And we still need to take care that we continue with those foundations. But we need to have a single focus mind now, what I call boosters or accelerators that will allow us to be more nimble and to react faster. And I'll share with you 4 of those today: procurement, asset intensity, category focus, and digital in operations to prepare operations for the future. Let us start with procurement. On the right, you have the way we are organized today, global, zone, and local, and we want to move to above market and market. It means that a lot of the decisions we would take above market, which is not the case today. This will enable us to leverage better our skills, but also to leverage better our scale or size. This is about buying better and cutting cost. And buying better not versus what we used to do before, buying better versus external benchmarks, the same way I showed you external benchmarks for the other parts of operation that I shared with you earlier. And this is about implementing a one procurement model company. We have today Nestlé, which is a trading services company. We want to add a leg for procurement. This will enable us to be also more flexible, because it's a 2-leg operation with still local for local when it matters. We talked a lot about flexitarians. We talked a lot about the new consumer yesterday. We talked a lot about the need to buy smaller ingredients maybe. That will be provided with this new structure, whilst also we have the structure to leverage scale above the market. That's the first accelerator, and we believe that we have around $500 million of savings for the coming 3 years coming from that. That's starting just now, and it's the 3 coming years. The first year will be kind of a setup of it, hence the numbers are what they are for the time being. The second accelerator or booster is better sweating our assets. And this is throughout operations, not only in manufacturing sites. We call that asset intensity. On the right, you have a small graph that shows you the evolution. We have already gained over the last year about 9%, 9 to 10% on an index of 100 of asset intensity on average throughout our 436 manufacturing sites. The plan is to gain 30% of asset intensity by 2020. And this is about reducing conversion and distribution costs, because we're going to do it throughout the value chain, as I said, not only in manufacturing. And this is about looking at our industrial footprint and optimizing this industrial setup. And of course, what is this about in a bit more details? It's about cutting unplanned stoppages, cutting breakdowns. The line should never stop, even more than what we have today. And that has also a benefit for safety, for quality of products and services, and for the environmental footprint. So it's a win-win from all angles, and it will further enhance the graphs that you just saw earlier on environmental sustainability. If you look at, the benefits over 3 years, we look at around 1 billion Swiss francs coming from only the asset intensity piece. To do that, apologies, we are still on the second accelerator. To do that, a bit more details on how we accelerate that. It's through TPM. It's one of the tools. You saw a couple of operators referring to TPM, which is total productive maintenance, like the Japanese call it, or total production management systems. And today already you can see a gap. The lines that are not on TPM are lower. So all lines in Nestle, we are around 100 on asset intensity, on an index of 100. And the lines that are on TPM already today are on average 11% higher than those lines which are not on TPM. And on the right, you see an implementation plan which will guide us further by 2020 to have around 90% of our lines on TPM. We have around 6,500 lines today in the Nestle group, and we aim to have 80%, 90% of that on TPM by 2020. So that's the plan for the second booster or second accelerator. The third booster, yesterday you had a very good view of that, I guess, with Stefan's presentation, Stefan Katsikas, as well as Patrice Bühler's presentation. They showed you that category focus in innovation. What they covered mostly is the discover and develop part. What I'm trying to cover with you today is the deployment part, because of course operations will be needed to make this happen. And that's about implementing the category focus into deployment, into making it happen in the factories, into executing it in a flawless manner. And that is going to accelerate our manufacturing performance improvement, let alone the planned stoppages, where we have changeovers. This is about also allowing more flexibility, changing over more to allow for more innovation, and also reorganizing the footprint. So that is about increasing the speed to market, basically, because without operations you can have a fantastic discover, you can have a fantastic develop, but if you do not have a flawless deploy, then your product is not on the shelf of the supermarket or in the trade or in e-commerce or wherever. So that's about making it happen to be faster in getting new products on the marketplace. The cost here is more of a cost avoidance cost, is about 1 billion over the coming 3 years. The fourth and last accelerator I wanted to talk to you about is digital in operations. Is preparing the factories and the warehouses and the logistics and all aspects of value chain to the future, to be fit for the future. This is about the Internet of Things, connectivity. This is about advanced analytics, advanced robotics, augmented reality, wearables, and 3D printing. This will go through a stronger, enforced standardization, also above the market, to be able to allow our equipment to be ready for the future. We leverage disruptive technologies. We have already started with few pilots in few manufacturing sites, as well as in few DCs, to prepare that. And then this will work, and we will then duplicate the learnings, and we will be able to scale up once we have experimented a bit of all of this into those pilots. So, traditionally, we have been known in operations to be behaving a bit like the farmers we so much love and that provide the precious raw materials that we use for our products. We have been having a step-by-step approach, very structured, which we need to keep because this has provided stability. We have been eventually accepting more. You know, the farmer accepts more bad weather, and he deals with that. That was a bit the mentality. And that's an important mentality because it generates those foundations. And those foundations we need to keep, and we need to build on. The idea here is to go and hunt for further opportunities, to seek targets, to also hunt for things we need to do faster. And that was the idea of sharing 4 examples out of others around accelerators, boosters, and how we go around that. And that, we believe, will provide agility that will be combined with our stability. So basically, it's moving from a gradual approach to a more leapfrog type of approach. Combining the stability to the agility will allow us to prepare better and to shape the future of operations of this company moving forward. And I would like you eventually to leave this room with 3 things. Nestle continuous excellence and creating shared value have delivered so far long-term stability. We will continue because we should not jeopardize our long-term journey. We are here to stay for another 150 years, as you heard it many times. Whilst doing that, we need to boost and accelerate our deliveries, and that is the accelerators that will make us more responsive, and both combined together will make of the operations of today a better operations to tackle the challenges of tomorrow. I thank you, and I will then hand over to Chris, who will cover the NBE part.